Hello, dear YouTube viewers, I hope you're doing well. Okay, so let's start our video. I turned 16 the week everything fell apart. For weeks I had been counting down the days, imagining what it would feel like to finally have a celebration that was just mine. I wasn't asking for much, just a small dinner with family, maybe a cake with my name on it, maybe a couple of friends coming over. It wasn't the kind of party my sister usually got, the loud ones with balloons, music, and the whole neighborhood invited. But for me, something quiet, thoughtful, and centered around my birthday would have been enough. In our house, though, things never seemed to orbit around me. My parents adored my sister, Melissa. She was 18, beautiful in that effortless way that made people stop and stare, and she had this social charm that filled every room she walked into. She always had a new friend, a new boyfriend, a new story to tell at dinner. My parents loved her. They bragged about her to relatives, posted about her on social media, and rearranged their schedules whenever she wanted something. And then there was me. I wasn't invisible exactly, but I was the quieter one, the steady one. I kept my grades up, I helped with chores, I didn't give them trouble. I thought, secretly, that maybe being reliable would make them proud of me in a different way. But the truth was, they didn't notice reliability. They noticed sparkle, and sparkle was Melissa's specialty. That's why this year, I let myself hope. Maybe they would see how important my 16th birthday was, how much it meant to me to feel celebrated, even for one night. I imagined the candles glowing on the cake, imagine Mom smiling at me the way she smiled at Melissa, imagine Dad clapping me on the back and telling me how grown-up I looked. For once, the spotlight might shift, even if only slightly, in my direction. The morning of my birthday, I woke up with that quiet anticipation humming in my chest. 16 felt different, heavier, like it should mean something. I told myself it would. After all, today was supposed to be mine. I spent the morning hanging a few decorations in the living room, nothing extravagant. Just some streamers I had picked out with my own money and a couple of balloons I'd blown up until I was dizzy. A small group of friends had agreed to stop by later, and I imagined us laughing over pizza, cutting into a cake, and maybe watching a movie together. It wasn't the kind of birthday people would write about, but to me, it felt like something special. I wanted the house to feel like it was mine for one day, just one. By noon, the kitchen smelled faintly of vanilla because I had begged Mom to let me help bake my cake the night before. I was so sure she'd be proud of me when she saw how careful I had been with the measurements, how smooth the frosting looked after I'd spent almost an hour spreading it evenly. I could already picture the candles flickering and my friends shouting, "Make a wish." I thought, finally, this year will feel different. Then, just after lunch, Mom and Dad called me into the living room. I thought maybe they were going to surprise me, tell me about some big plan they had kept secret. Instead, their faces were tight, hesitant, like they had rehearsed what they were about to say. "Honey," Mom began, her voice sickly sweet, "we need to talk about tonight." My stomach dropped. Dad cleared his throat. "Your sister has an opportunity, something really important to her. A boy she's liked for a while finally asked her out. Tonight is the only night he can take her, and, well, you only turned 16 once, but you'll have other birthdays too. This is different." I stood frozen, my fingers tightening into fists at my sides. "So, what are you saying? We're going to have to cancel the party," Mom said quickly, as if ripping off a bandage. "It wouldn't be fair to Melissa to make her miss this chance. You'll understand when you're older." Melissa appeared behind them, already dressed up in a short, glittery dress that looked more like something she'd wear to prom than to dinner. She gave me a quick shrug, barely making eye contact. "Sorry, but you know how it is. This is a big deal for me." Her voice was casual, almost bored, as if my entire birthday was just an inconvenient scheduling conflict. The words hit me like cold water. Cancelled. Like my birthday was a TV show they could pull from the air because something more interesting was on. My friends were expecting to come over. The cake was waiting in the fridge, and I was standing there with streamers sagging in the background like they were mocking me. I felt a hot sting in my eyes, but I bit my lip hard, refusing to let the tears fall in front of them. My chest burned with anger and humiliation. How could they not see me? How could they choose her date over my birthday? I nodded stiffly, pretending to understand, but inside I was screaming. 16 was supposed to be my day, and once again, I was invisible. I shut myself in my room after that conversation, locking the door even though no one bothered to knock. The laughter I had imagined for the evening felt like a cruel joke now, and the cake in the fridge might as well have been a block of ice. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, the streamers I had hung fluttering faintly in the draft from the window, mocking me with every sway. 16 was supposed to feel like a milestone, but instead it felt like proof of something I'd always suspected. In this family, I would never come first. It wasn't just the birthday. It was everything that came before. I thought about all the times Melissa had thrown tantrums when she didn't get her way, and how Mom would rush to soothe her like she was made of glass. I remembered Dad leaving my school science fair early, right before the judges announced I'd won first place, because Melissa had called saying she needed a ride to the mall. Even my report card, neat rows of A's, barely earned a nod from them, while Melissa's mediocre grades were always met with, "Well, she's busy with friends and activities, you know how it is." I'd convinced myself for years that being the quiet, dependable one would pay off eventually. That one day they'd notice me not for being dramatic, but for being steady. But as I sat on my bed with the taste of disappointment thick in my mouth, I realized how foolish that hope had been. No matter what I did, Melissa would always be the star, and I would always be the shadow. The birthday should have been different. It was the one day where I thought, finally, they'll see me. But instead, it had been stolen and handed over like a spare ticket to Melissa's endless parade of social events. My 16th birthday traded for a date. That was the breaking point. As I wiped the angry tears off my face, I thought of something else. The upcoming vacation. My parents had been buzzing about it for months. Tickets bought, bags half-packed already. A trip they called the break we deserve. They guarded those plans like treasure, counting down the days with the same excitement I had been counting down to my birthday. And in that moment, something inside me hardened. If my birthday didn't matter enough to protect, then maybe their vacation didn't either. If they could cancel me so easily, maybe I could show them what it felt like to have something they cared about ripped away. It wasn't a fully formed plan yet, just a spark, a whisper at the back of my mind. But it was enough to make me sit up straighter, my heartbeat quickening with the thought. If they wouldn't listen to my words, maybe they would listen to my actions. My parents had been talking about their vacation for months, almost as if it were the only thing that mattered. Every night at dinner, Mom would bring it up. What outfits she wanted to pack, which restaurants she had bookmarked online, how the hotel had a pool with a bar where she could finally relax like a real adult. Dad would grin across the table, his eyes lighting up as he listed off the tours he had booked. A boat ride, a guided hike, a wine tasting. It was supposed to be their big anniversary trip, a week away from responsibilities, a week to reconnect. They had already put down deposits, non-refundable ones that Mom bragged about getting at a discount. The plane tickets were booked months in advance, printed neatly and tucked in a folder in Dad's desk. I knew because I'd seen him double-check them more than once, muttering about flight numbers and boarding passes. The hotel confirmation sat in his email inbox, easy enough for me to notice when he left his laptop open in the kitchen one night, the glow of the screen catching my eye. At first, I hadn't thought much of it. Their vacation was their business, and I kept out of it. But after my birthday was swept aside like it was nothing, the memory of those details came back sharper, brighter, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. I realized how much trust they had in the fact that I wouldn't touch their things, wouldn't cross that line. But maybe I could. The passwords wouldn't be hard. They weren't the most creative people. I'd overheard Mom telling Melissa her email login once because Melissa needed to print something quickly. Dad, on the other hand, used the same combination for everything, his favorite sports team's name and the year he graduated. It would take me no more than a few tries. As the thoughts sank in, I felt a strange kind of power I had never felt before. They had taken something precious from me without blinking, and now, in their overconfidence, they had handed me the perfect opportunity. Their dream vacation wasn't untouchable. It was sitting right there, just within my reach. I waited until the house had gone quiet and the casual armor of daytime routines had slipped away. After dinner, When Dad left his laptop open at the kitchen table and Mom had gone to tidy the laundry room, I slipped downstairs like a shadow. My hands trembled a little as I leaned over the keyboard. I wasn't proud of what I was doing, but pride had been an expensive thing in this family, and tonight it felt like a currency I didn't have. Their travel emails were there waiting, neat and ordinary. Booking confirmations, a PDF itinerary, a receipt with a bright "payment received" stamped across the top. The names of flights, the glossy pictures of the resort, tiny notes about breakfast included. Everything they'd fussed over for months. Seeing it all in black and white made the trip feel less like a dream and more like an object I could touch, move, or break. For the first time since I'd hung those pathetic streamers, the scales seemed, briefly, balanced. I sat back and considered my options, weighing them with a clinical, almost frightening calm. I could try to nudge things, call to reschedule, raise a complaint, create a delay that would at least make them scramble. I could try something petty, like canceling only part of the itinerary, a single excursion that meant a lot to Dad. Or I could go all the way and erase the trip entirely, send the cancellation emails that would strip the floor out from under their excitement. Each possibility tasted different in my mouth. One bitter, one sharp, one cold and final. The choice felt less like cruelty and more like arithmetic. For years I'd been undervalued. A canceled birthday was a small, private cruelty I'd swallowed. This was their treasure, paid for, polished, and protected as if it were a family heirloom. If they could casually discard my night for Melissa's date, then taking this from them would make them feel, even for a moment, the hollowness I'd felt. It wasn't a solution. It was a lesson. I didn't plan it with theatrical precision. I called. I spoke in a voice I'd practiced in my head, careful to keep the tremor from leaking into my tone. I referenced reservation numbers, confirmed names, and watched the replies roll in. Automated confirmations at first, then human responses whose annoyed professional cadence betrayed real consequence. I clicked the final button that sent the cancellation notice, and a small, terrible part of me expected the heavens to open and the world to intervene. Nothing happened except the soft ding of an incoming email, reservation canceled. I sat there in the dim kitchen, the screen's glow painting my face the color of an apology I hadn't received. Satisfaction came slowly, like warmth spreading after a cold shock. It wasn't triumph so much as a hollow vindication. I had taken control of something that had been taken from me. For the first time in as long as I could remember, my actions produced an immediate response from the people who had always ignored me. That response would be messy and loud, and it would finally force them to look at what they had done. The days leading up to their departure were a blur of activity. Suitcases lined the hallway, Mom darting between her closet and the bathroom with armfuls of clothes and toiletries, Dad bragging about how he had remembered to buy travel-sized sunscreen this time. They were giddy, almost like kids, laughing about how they'd finally get a real break. Watching them, I felt like a ghost haunting the edges of their joy. They didn't notice me sitting at the kitchen table, barely pushing food around my plate, but I noticed them. Noticed every laugh, every careless mention of the vacation that had become the crown jewel of their year. That night, while they zipped their luggage and set passports by the door, the first email landed. Dad was at his laptop, humming off-key to some old song, when his expression suddenly faltered. He leaned closer to the screen, frowning. "What is it?" Mom called from the bedroom. "This can't be right." His voice carried a thread of panic. "The flight's been canceled? It says here we requested it." Mom appeared instantly, dropping a pile of folded shirts on the floor.
"What?"
"Let me see." She hovered over him, eyes scanning the email.
No, this is wrong."
"Check the hotel. Check the excursions." He clicked frantically, each new email confirming what I already knew. The hotel's canceled too. The boat tour gone. The whole thing's wiped clean. His voice grew harsher with every word. "What the hell is going on?" Mom's hands flew to her head. "Did you mess something up? You always get impatient with websites." "Me? I didn't touch anything," Dad shot back. "You probably clicked the wrong thing when you were bragging about the restaurant reservations." Their voices climbed, colliding in the hallway as they tore through papers and reloaded pages. desperate to undo what couldn't be undone. Melissa padded in from upstairs, earbuds dangling around her neck. What's with the screaming? Our entire trip, canceled. Mom shrieked. All of it gone. Melissa blinked, then smirked. Wait, are you serious? Oh my God, that's actually kind of hilarious. She let out a laugh, quick and sharp, but it died when Dad glared at her. She shrugged, then softened her tone. Okay, it sucks. But come on, you guys must have clicked something wrong, right? It wasn't us, Mom snapped. Her eyes darted around the room like she was hunting for someone to blame. That was my moment. I stood from the table, my heart pounding but my voice steady. It wasn't a mistake. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. I canceled it. The words dropped like stones in water, rippling through the silence. Now you know how it feels when something important to you gets thrown away for someone else's convenience. For a beat, no one moved. Mom's face drained of color, Dad's mouth opened but no sound came out, and even Melissa's smugness evaporated. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, jagged, thick with shock and denial. The silence after my confession lasted only a moment before it shattered. You did what? Dad's voice cracked like a whip, booming through the living room. His face flushed red, his fists clenched at his sides. Do you have any idea what you've done? That trip cost us thousands of dollars. You've ruined everything. Mom's shock twisted into fury just as quickly. How could you be so selfish? So immature? Canceling our anniversary trip because you are jealous of your sister's date? Do you think that's some kind of joke? Their words hit me hard, but something inside me refused to shrink the way it usually did. I had spent years swallowing my feelings, staying quiet to keep the peace, waiting for the day they would finally notice me. That day never came. So now, with their anger raining down on me, I let mine spill over. Selfish. I snapped, my voice shaking but strong. You want to talk about selfish? You canceled my 16th birthday like it was nothing. I planned for weeks, I hung up decorations, I even baked my own cake because I thought maybe this time you'd actually care. But no, you threw it all away so Melissa could go on a date. A date. And you didn't even think twice. Mom opened her mouth, but I cut her off, the words pouring out faster now. It's always been that way. Do you remember the science fair when I won first place? No, of course you don't, because Dad left early to drive Melissa to the mall. Or how about when I made the honor roll 3 years in a row? You didn't even come to the ceremony. You were too busy cheering at Melissa's soccer games, even when she was sitting on the bench. Melissa rolled her eyes, arms folded. Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. You always make everything about. Shut up, Melissa. The words flew out sharper than I intended, but I didn't regret them. You get everything handed to you, and you don't even see it. Every time you cry or stomp your feet, they bend over backwards. And me? I work hard, I stay out of trouble, and I get ignored. Do you know how it feels to live like you're invisible in your own house? My voice cracked, and suddenly the anger melted into something rawer, heavier. Tears burned my eyes as my chest heaved. I just wanted one day where I mattered. But you couldn't even give me that. You've made me feel like nothing, like I'll never be good enough no matter what I do. And I'm tired. I'm so tired of trying to be seen. The room went quiet again, but this time it wasn't disbelief. It was the weight of my words sinking in. Mom's face softened, her anger faltering as guilt crept in. Dad looked away, his jaw tight but his eyes glassy. Even Melissa, for once, had no comeback. For the first time in years, they were listening, not to the version of me they assumed I was, but to the truth I had buried inside. The house was quiet for days after the fight, the kind of silence that pressed down like a heavy blanket. Meals were eaten without conversation, doors closed a little harder than necessary, footsteps creaked through the hall but no one lingered. I kept to my room, not out of guilt, but because I didn't trust myself to speak without either screaming or breaking down again. For once, they had to sit with what I'd said. For once, the silence wasn't mine to bear alone. It was on the 4th night that Mom knocked on my door. Her voice was soft, uncertain. Can we talk? I hesitated before letting her in. She sat on the edge of my bed, her hands twisting in her lap. "I'm sorry," she said finally, the words stiff but real. "We should have been there for you. We should have made your birthday a priority. I think we've been blind to how much we've hurt you." Dad came in a few moments later, his expression grim, but less angry than before. He didn't look at me at first, just at the floor. "Your mother's right. We messed up more than once. I don't know if we can make it up to you, but we want to try." They offered a late birthday, a do-over of sorts, dinner at my favorite restaurant, a cake I didn't have to bake myself, maybe even inviting the friends I'd turned away that night. It wasn't much compared to the years of being overlooked, but it was a start. They promised, too, to pay more attention, to stop brushing aside my achievements, and to share their focus more fairly between Melissa and me. I wanted to believe them. Part of me ached to forgive, to let the anger melt away and pretend everything could go back to normal. But another part, the wiser part, knew forgiveness wasn't instant. Wounds don't close in a single conversation. So I nodded, cautiously. "Okay, but it's going to take time." Mom reached for my hand, and this time I let her hold it. It didn't erase the past, but it did something I hadn't felt in years. It made me feel seen. For the first time, I wasn't just the quiet shadow in the corner. I was heard, and that, more than any birthday or vacation, was a gift I had been waiting for. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please subscribe. Our channel Awesome Visual Story.